Hey everyone, welcome to Mr. Geopolitics. Today we're going to be talking about the latest developments in Ukraine for September the 12th. I just put out a longer video, but this one's going to be a quick one, just going over everything quickly. So, all the area west of the Oskil River. This is the Oskil River. All the area west that you see in blue has been liberated by the Ukrainians. Now, the vast majority of it was liberated in the last couple of days, in the last 5 days. So this chunk of territory right here, basically in the last 5 days. And aside from that, north of Kharkiv, the Russians had a little sliver of land. And that has been liberated as well. That turned into a triangle. But anyways, so some of the area north of Kharkiv was liberated in the first phase of the war when the Russians withdrew. But the Russians withdrew from Izium and all the area to the north, and today they basically withdrew from they had a chunk of territory remaining, but they withdrew from it. Anyways, so the Ukrainians were in a celebratory mood, but then the Russians launched several cruise missiles from the Black Sea, and they destroyed several Ukrainian power stations. The footage of that is on my channel if you want to see it quickly. But anyways, they destroyed one of the largest power stations in Ukraine, in Kharkiv. And all of a sudden, all of eastern Ukraine, the territory controlled by Ukraine, was plunged into darkness. So Kharkiv, Dnipro, Kryvyi Rih, Kramatorsk, right, and also Sumy Oblast, and even some parts of Kiev. People couldn't access water, the metro lines weren't working. But anyways, now the power's back on. The Ukrainians are on backup power. But what the question on everyone's mind is this the beginning of a trend? Are the Russians going to take off the kids' gloves now? Are they going to attack Ukraine's vital infrastructure? Because realistically, the Russians, if they want to, they can send Ukraine into the Stone Age. They can basically destroy all of Ukraine's vital infrastructure: water, electricity, road networks, you name it, telephone lines, satellites. They could destroy it all. But will they? And why did they do this today? Some think it's revenge for the territory that Ukraine was able to gain during the last couple days, the defeat they dealt Russia. Now, others think it's because of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, because Ukraine has been bombing this power plant for the last couple, well over a month. And as a result, Russia had to shut down the power plant. Ukraine tried to seize this power plant when they began their offensive in Kherson. They also launched two amphibious raids on the town of Enerhodar, but both times their forces were defeated and repelled, and they lost something like 300 to 400 elite troops that had been trained in the UK, from what they say. Anyways, so When it comes to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, the Russians wanted to cut off the electricity to Ukraine, and that power plant was providing 20% of the electricity for Ukraine, and they wanted to connect it to the Russian power grid. But the Ukrainians were really upset about that, and so they continued to shell this power plant. And even after the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, came to inspect the area, to inspect the power plant, the shelling continued and has continued. So that might be one reason. Another reason is because the Ukrainians have basically begun in the Zaporizhia region, this area right here. The Ukrainians have basically, from what I hear, they have started to remove their mines, the mines which they put in place themselves. And some believe that's because the same army that took back this area is now going to head south and try to basically liberate all this territory here. Why here? Because if you look at the situation in Ukraine, the Kherson counteroffensive is it's a mixed bag. The results have not been that great. I mean, the Ukraine has liberated a little bit of territory, but in some areas they're just basically stuck and not able to advance that much, and it doesn't I mean, you could argue they've had some success, but it's not that great of a situation. It's nothing like what they did in the north, not even close. So that's Kherson and Zaporizhia. They also failed to take the power plant twice. And here's the thing: right now, the Ukrainians could cross the Oskil River and try to go into the Kharkiv region. But the problem is river crossings are dangerous because they could cross the river and Russia could blow the bridges. Right now, to the south, where the Oskil River turns into the Seversky Donets River, the Ukrainians have actually crossed the Seversky Donets, and they've taken these settlements here, Ozern and Stary Caravan. But so far they failed on 2 or 3 occasions to take Liman. So their forces have been repelled. The Russians got caught off guard in Kherson, in the Kherson region. But now they've sent reinforcements from Russia, and the only positive for the Russians is that most of their troops withdrew. There were no major clashes. The Russians just knew that they had been caught off guard. They withdrew most of their forces, so thousands of Russian troops are on this side of the river now. So crossing the river is dangerous here, and there's Russian reinforcements and Russian troops here who fled from Kharkiv. Over here, it's the same story. There's a river crossing. The Russians haven't blown the bridges yet, but they could. And there's reinforcements and Russian troops from Kharkiv here. Now, over here, there were some rumors that the Ukrainians would attack Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, but if the Russians were to actually choose to fight, then the Ukrainians would have to fight house to house, street by street, and their forces could also get encircled. Not only that, but the Russians are actually going on the offensive here. So this area is saturated. Right, this area is saturated with Russian troops. Soledar, the Russians are going on an offensive. Bakhmut, they're going on an offensive. So basically, Kodema right here, they're going on an offensive. So this whole area is saturated with Russian troops. this line here, this red line, represents what the Russians controlled, to the right, what the Russians controlled, Russian separatists before this war started on February 22nd or 24th it was. If you notice here, the lines haven't changed that much. Both sides are heavily entrenched. It took Russia, I think, 2 months of fighting just to take this little chunk of territory. Pesky. The fighting here is tooth and nail, meter by meter. But anyways, the Russians have taken this territory. The Ukrainians launched a counteroffensive here today, and it failed. And there was some footage from it. But anyways, again, heavily entrenched area, highly saturated with Russian troops. Of course, Kherson, there's already a counteroffensive. The Russians have sent reinforcements, some Chechen troops. So that, I mean, I'm hearing that the Ukrainians are going to send more reinforcements here, but the Russians there are on high alert, and there's a decent amount of them there. And the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant would require pretty much a river crossing, and they're saturated here. But the reason the Ukrainians are going to go for this area right here is because this area, there has been fighting, and there have been some Russian reinforcements lately, but if the Ukrainians were able to take this territory, if you notice, it would split the Russians in two, right? There would be Crimea and this territory here by Kherson, and then there would be the Luhansk and Donetsk, basically the Donbass area territory. So the Ukrainians want to bring that army down, that same army, who are probably really confident in themselves now. And they're pretty capable since they were able to take all this territory. So the Ukrainians want to bring them down here and have a repeat of their success. But will they be able to repeat their success? I don't know, because the Russians now are on high alert, and they know the Ukrainians are sending troops. And I wouldn't be surprised in the next couple days if, because Ukraine's rail system depends on electricity. Some people are saying that's also one of the reasons why Russia today attacked the Ukraine's electrical grid, the power stations. But yeah, I mean, if the Ukrainians were able to pull this off, it would be a huge victory. It might be for the Russians the end of the line, because the forces would be split in two. I mean, they could try to then encircle the Ukrainian forces, but who knows? Maybe that's what they're gonna do. Maybe they're gonna allow the Ukrainians to maybe gain some territory, and then they might try to cut them off and encircle them. Who knows? We're gonna have to wait and see what happens. But anyways, that's it for this quick update, guys. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.